Gentlemen, it's page 2 of non-SIS. It's item number 22, Sorrento Road. As you guys remember, we had started on a PD&E on this. Or soon after I got elected, Jack came to me and said we needed $17 million right now to give to FDOT. Basically, they'd called our side of the equation. Nicked it down with him for a while, and it was, in order for them to continue to move forward, it was $5 million now and $12 million committed in a short period of time to ensure, what's the name of that? What's that term?
Planning consistency.
Planning consistency, so that we don't finish up phase the PD&E and we don't have any money, we don't have any commitment to moving forward. At that time, of course, we were still struggling with the jail. And we were really watching our pennies very tightly, and so there simply was no money, and that put this PD&E on hold. This PD&E remains on hold for want of $1.5 million of local lift and another $5 million of commitment for the next phase, which is construction or right away.
Design.
Yes, sir. Sorry, design. So, now this kind of asks the question. I kind of need this opportunity with you guys. We talked at one time during that period of time of addressing certain core infrastructure roads as non-district specific. For example, I don't feel like the interchange is a District 1 or District 5 issue. That we will all hang by that one. Pine Forest is one of those roads that I consider to be a core infrastructure of the county. So my question is, we don't actually have a list of roads that we consider to be non-district specific core infrastructure. Do we want to identify that? Is there an appetite to say, these roads are core infrastructure? And of course, I think that whatever we end up doing to meet the sector plan and those kind of commitments, I think those are again critical countywide responsibilities. So I need to know, are we going to have a countywide responsibilities? If we are, will Sorrento Road make that cut? And then we should have the discussion about the 1.5. If the answer to those two questions is no, or either one of those two questions is no, then that makes it a district-specific issue that then Jeff and I need to determine where that 1.5 and 5 fall in our overall priorities, because that's basically the line between us.
So before, Mr. Chairman, if you don't, I was just going to have you mention the map. So I did have staff put together what we would consider a countywide roadway network for your consideration, so that you can. I'm sorry, you can tell.
I'm sorry. I think for recording purposes. Yes, I think the third map in, actually, it's County, Florida, countywide roadway network map. Might be a little difficult to see. Might be blocking your view.
We'll just run down the big ones, the Big Ten, the Big Ten roads. Is Sorrento one of them?
Well, what we have done previously is we met individually with the commissioners and kind of asked what you consider not just a district-wide corridor, but a countywide corridor. And so that's what we glean on that map. If there's additional corridors that the commission believes are countywide compared to just district-wide type or individual district corridors, let us know. We'll be glad to pull that up. We'd love to take it to the board and actually get a blessing from the board of these are our countywide corridor priorities.
Commissioner Baird and Commissioner McGosh.
Oops. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to have this discussion. I don't know that that's, something for our DOT partners to have to kind of wade through with us. If you want to bring that to a committee of the whole or whatever, we can. I've given my personal feedback in private, but if you want to put that on committee of the whole for the next one, that's fine for us. I don't know that everybody has to, kind of listen to that discussion.
Commissioner McGosh.
Yeah, I'll just say Sorrento is important. There's no question. It's primarily your district, Doug, but a portion of it goes in front of the country club, and there's been a lot of accidents there. It's a tremendously unsafe thing. So I think that should have been done many years ago, and it's a shame that it wasn't. But, just look at the map. There's no question from the southern portion, bisecting the county, going all the way downtown, that line, that road is very, very important, especially as Perdido Keys gets really, really crowded during the summer. So, we got to find a way to do it, and I think that we will.
Doug, I think this is what you were talking about, the TPO, where there was a letter that came in saying that we needed to put forth some money. Is that I can't remember, maybe I'd read or heard or something that I think, had you come and asked for $1 million and then did it up? I remember it going up a little bit. Then it was $1 million, now it's 1.5.
It was 1 million and 4, or it was 1 million and 4 million and then when we actually got down to brass tacks on it, they came back and it was 1.5 and 5. So yes, that's the same one. And I did bring it up in the TPO that we needed to have that discussion. We've delayed that discussion to now. I think just because the tools that I have in the toolbox, or that Jeff and I have in the toolbox to solve this, are there's two different ways to attack it. But it really does begin with that strategic discussion of are we prepared to adopt that approach? But Stephen, if it needs to go on a different committee of the whole, it does delay where we're going here. So it would be a great opportunity. I know we've all had an opportunity to talk about it amongst ourselves. So I'd really be interested in what people's thoughts are on if not necessarily one particular road or that particular road, but is this the right way to govern the core infrastructure of roads in Escambia County?
And just for my part too, and when we talk about Sorrento, I don't think we should talk about it in a vacuum. We should also talk about Blue Angel, because together we represent the way off the island if there's a hurricane coming through. So we got it, and we've got a little movement on Blue Angel, but again, we don't have the cash right in the bank to do what we need to do. So those are discussions. But when we're talking about Sorrento, I also want to ask staff to look at every possible funding source, even creative. I know being on the TPO, we hear about what our neighbors to the west are doing with some of their tourist development taxes. They're actually building a bridge over there, my understanding, and they're funding it with tourist development taxes. So I know that, right now we spend the lion's share of that just bringing tourists in, but I believe there's some legitimate legal uses we could, and particularly for areas like that serve a lot of tourists. So Doug, I think that's something that we should look at too. We can't have one set of funds make it sacrosanct. We got to look at all funding sources, and sometimes that means we got to tell people we want to use some of this money for infrastructure.
Yeah, there really is no question that particularly as we continue to grow the amount of money coming in, there's a diminishing value when it comes to marketing. Diminishing returns comes into play. That is certainly, in my opinion, that money is not sacrosanct. In terms of improving the overall tourism, as long as it's meeting the goals of the tourism development dollar. That's we're certainly, and I agree with you in that as we discuss how we're going to solve these big rock problems, we're going to have to look at everything, including that. So, I know that I think some people have said that's completely off the table. It's never off the table. The reality is that we have way more needs than we have means to fund them. So wide open to hear that to be a part of that discussion now. But again, like I said, the big question is: are we looking at that grid or a grid as a collective, we're all in this together kind of problem, or do we need to be addressing it district by district? And I'd love to hear the comments of any of my peers on that.
Jared.
Yeah, Commissioners, and thank you for that, Commissioner Berry. You're right. That is not necessarily a discussion for DOT. However, as a transportation professional in the way that have seen many projects move forward and delivered, I could offer a little advice in that it certainly is a very worthwhile effort to discuss priorities as a county, so that you set those priority corridors. Because if you look at Sorrento, it's number 22 on the TPO's list, right? But from a county perspective, I think when you're talking about getting transportation funds from other sources, usually all those other sources are connected in some form or fashion, right? When you're trying to get transportation dollars. So I think it really goes a long ways if a county sets those priorities, so that anytime staff or commissioners or anybody are communicating with any other stakeholders that bring funding to the table, that those priorities are always very clear and always exactly the same. That's how the momentum builds. So that's just little advice for the future.
Thanks, Jared. Absolutely. I've seen that, and I've seen what I feel like we've missed opportunities for greatness because we're not aligned that way. So, but Jeff, the other thing I wanted to say, you actually brought up Blue Angel Parkway. Yeah. We're kind of on the last leg of it that touches physically my district, but every linear inch of that Blue Angel Parkway is critical to my district, yes. As it is our evacuation route. So, until that's 4-laned all the way to Pine Forest the way it was supposed to be, as far as I'm concerned, it's a high priority for the people of my district, and so it'll continue to have my support as hard as the leg of it that was in my district. So that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. It's like, and building that, 4-laning that out, all that really does is pushes the bottleneck up to 98. until we get that 4-lane all the way up to the freeway, all we're really doing is pushing the problem down the road. But at the end of the day, it's still the same citizens sitting in their car in a Cat 4 hurricane. So, but yeah, you look at, let's see, I mean, Pine Forest, the Beulah Interchange, Blue Angel Parkway, Navy Boulevard. I mean, this is the backbone of our grid, and certainly, and you know, going over onto I'm just using mine and his on the west side, but you know, the same thing exists in your districts as well. And so, just to telegraph very emphatically, as far as I'm concerned, those that are a part of that grid are not specific to your district and would get my support for